Hi, I'm Mary Polchaninoff, and welcome to Sure Things. Today we're going to spend time to talk about yet another gem of the shoreline. We're going to talk about the Cape in Old Saybrook. And I'm very happy to welcome Brett Elliott here. Hi, Brett.
Hello.
Executive Director of the Cape.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you could find time. I'm sure it's getting to be a busy season.
Well, coming out of COVID, it's a little slower, but there is a lot happening. But thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. No, so that's actually, I wanted to start at that point. What has been happening during COVID at the Cape?
Well, as a performing arts venue, that the greatest thing we do is bring people together. That has been the thing that we haven't been able to do for the last 13 or 14 months. And that has presented its challenges, but we've tried to be nimble and do some creative things. We've had virtual concerts. We had our virtual gala honoring Cher with the Spirit of Katharine Hepburn Award, and a handful of other things. And then we started live concerts again at the end of March with limited capacity, musicians on stage. It had been 379 days concert to concert when we had our first one back. It was pretty magical, even with only 70 folks in the audience.
Is that what you're limited to 70? What is the usual capacity?
Just under 300. So
yeah.
with distancing appropriately and some of the other regulations, it's about 70 folks. So we've had some live concerts back, and now we're sort of looking to the future of reopening further and doing so safely. And
That's a lot going on.
And we've done a lot of virtual things with like our museum as well. So we had a virtual exhibit, and we're trying to do everything that we were doing prior to COVID in some new way. But at the end of the day, we don't want to be Netflix. We want to come back to having events where we bring people together in person when it's safe again.
Oh yeah, I like that thought. You don't want to be Netflix. That's true. That's a great thought. How did you come about ending up at the Cape? What's your background?
Yeah, my background is in technical theater primarily.
Oh.
So I started my career through the American College Theater Festival, and went to for stage management. Went to the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
And got a fellowship at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center here in Connecticut in the summer 2009. And then I got hired by the O'Neill and was there for a few years as the executive assistant, and I helped with rentals and the college program, technical needs for their college program. And then I went to grad school in Chicago. DePaul University has a unique program where you go to school full-time at DePaul and you work full-time at Chicago Shakespeare Theater, and it's joint. So I did that program for 2 years, spent my first summer in Edinburgh, Scotland, company managing a show at the Fringe. The next year I worked on a really incredible show that took me to Melbourne, Australia for a month.
You have a great background with those experiences. Did you ever get the bug? Did you ever think I want to be up there on stage, or did you always want to be behind the scenes?
Oh, yeah, I was in high school, but it was not for me.
Okay.
And I like numbers, and I like figuring out how to make things happen, and I'd rather give an artist who's really good at that the space to be on stage. When I was at the O'Neill, I did some freelance lighting work for the previous executive director at the Cape, and so I got to know the Cape that way. Went to grad school and came back to this area as the interim director of the Cape because the previous executive director was moving on to a new job. And I'll be honest, the Cape did a very expensive search with a headhunter to find the new ED, and they brought in 7 people from all over the country, and then at the end they decided to hire the interim. So I got to stay.
That's great. Now, what year was that? Because I think I remember, you coming out, how you welcome people in the beginning. What year was that?
So,
that you started?
2014 was when I started as the interim, and I took over in 2015.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. You've done a great job. I mean, I looked at the website, and we've been also to some of the events there, so we know that it's truly a gem of the shoreline, which is great.
Yeah.
So as you're looking ahead, what have been some of your challenges during the pandemic, and as you're looking ahead to the next transition phase, what have been some of your challenges?
Yeah, just figuring out, I think for us the biggest challenge is figuring out how to reopen, because there are restrictions, there is consumer confidence, there are, artist travel and limitations where, things are going to keep morphing into the summer as artists can't get to the Cape because their entire tour fell apart other places. So, our goal is to get artists back to work, because the Cape has navigated through this and we've done okay, and thanks to members and sponsors and supporters, but for artists, they've just not been working for a year, which is awful. So trying to get back to getting artists in and getting them back to work and bringing audiences back safely is our goal.
So I had a question about that, because I wondered, how do you find your talent? How do you scout out?
Sure.
Because you have an eclectic mix when I look at some of the offerings.
Yeah, we do, and community events and also national tour acts, right? So a little bit of it all. But for those tour acts, there are a lot of agents out there, and certainly as a 300-ish seat venue, we're not doing the same things that the Bushnell is doing because they have many more seats. But we have relationships with a lot of agents all over the country and international, and we've developed a little bit of a reputation as a really good venue, and so often those agents are calling me to pitch ideas or shows that they have, or I'm always looking. I go to conferences where there's showcases and I see things I like, and then I'm in negotiations to bring that to the Kate. It sort of is able to create, yes, this very eclectic mix of programming. One weekend can have, a tribute band and a singer-songwriter and, Graham Nash, and then also a kids show and maybe the Met Opera simulcast. So it's a unique place for that reason.
Do you have any performers or shows that are pretty standards, ones that every year they'll come back?
We have a few of those, sure. There's always some things in sort of the Celtic world that come around each year. So, Eileen Ivers or Wee Banjo 3 is a favorite. And some that have outgrown us. The High Kings came in when they were a little more up and coming to the U.S. anyways, and we went from one show to 2 shows, and then, they were just playing bigger spaces. So we actually partner with the Guard, and we do that show together at the Guard in New London now. So we're always thinking creative about how we keep doing what we're doing.
Well, I could see that's a great collaboration with the Guard, because they do. They have some big shows there as well as they go along. When you're looking ahead now to the schedule for the spring and summer, how are you working that with knowing
because of COVID?
Yes.
So we've had limited shows, like I shared, and those have been kind of unique, renegotiated things that fit a limited audience. And then we're kind of taking every show case by case. We had the Guthrie brothers on stage recently, and it's a little bit easier for 2 individuals who are a duo to make it to the Kate with travel logistics and things than it is for a band with 12 people, right? Given currently there's limited capacity. So we're taking every single thing on a case-by-case basis, always trying to do the right thing for our audiences, for our artists, and everyone has a different opinion on how that should work, but I can tell you we do spend a lot of time trying to make the right decisions.
Yeah, you must have a team that you work closely with too. How was fundraising with, because I know you're really donation driven. How did fundraising go during pandemic? Did you have to do some creative things there as well? Yeah,
so the Kate's a cultural nonprofit, right? So we do raise about half of our funding through contributions. So, our members, membership is our biggest source of income. Many of them renewed their membership through the year of COVID, even though their benefits weren't quite as great, discounts on tickets and things, because they wanted to see us here when this was all over. So that really helped, and many of our sponsors stuck with us as well. And we did some of our fundraisers. The gala with Cher happened and raised some money, and right now we're doing our virtual Oscar party in a box because we can't do it in person. Our tag is Be Like Kate, Stay Home on Oscar Night, because Katharine Hepburn never went to the Oscars to receive her Oscars. She always stayed home. So be like Kate and stay home. Party in a box. So that's happening. So we found clever ways to raise dollars, and the state did a matching program as well that helped a bit, and PPP and all those things during COVID helped us out. But we're here, and our core staff is still all at the Kate. We've been very fortunate.
Now you have how much of your building would you say is the museum? Would you say that's about a quarter of your building, that museum piece?
Yeah, well, so the second level is all the theater. So if we're counting that as half, the museum is probably about a third of the lower level. So I guess that's a sixth overall.
Yeah. And how's that museum going? Are you looking ahead to doing any more additions to that, or how's that?
So we did a wonderful virtual exhibit over during COVID, and that virtual exhibit highlighted things that were both in the museum or things that were new to our collection. And it also featured some letters from Kate's early career that were given to us by the Grant Estate in Fenwick. So a treasure trove of early career, like writing to her mom, things that have never been seen.
These were new?
Those were new to us, yes. They had been in a box in Fenwick for decades, and they were gifted to the Kate. So we've been archiving and preserving those and made those part of the exhibit. Yes, and some were in the process. We started doing a little, what could the museum be? Could we expand it a little bit? And some real magic has been at work. And I can't give it all away, but there is a renovation underway.
So there are things.
Yes, the museum is offline as of yesterday morning for the next probably few months, and it will be nearly double the size when it reopens because we were able to be really clever about the space around it.
How would you even, because I'm wondering about that collaboration, like you talked about the letters, getting that from family. Where do they come from? Is there a family connection or an estate that has these items that you can actually purchase or add to your collection?
Yeah, so the Katharine Hepburn estate still exists. There are folks who guard that or manage that, I suppose is the word I wanted to look for. But then there's also other organizations that have significant items. For example, Kent State was the organization that was gifted her wardrobe and costumes that she had because they have a fashion school. And so the exhibit that has toured the country, I think it was Katharine Hepburn dressed for stage and screen, Kent State was behind that. But we're hoping to work with them in the future. So as we think about our new space, thinking about temperature and humidity and all the things you need to preserve items so that we can hopefully work with partner organizations like that in the future and bring some of those items on temporary loan.
You could do a temporary loan.
Potentially, yeah. That's what we're
because
working on.
I think the museum is great. We've gone through them numerous times, but that whole idea of getting, well, the personal letters is amazing. But then anything that could see like outfits and costumes, that would be
It will
amazing.
be a very new and bold storytelling of Katharine Hepburn. We're very excited about where we're headed with that space.
Do you get family members or connections, to Kate that actually show up or reach out?
Sure, there are still some in the area that we have relationships with, sure, and actually Catherine Houghton will be stopping by the Kate in a few weeks, Kate's niece. Catherine Houghton, she was in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with her. We have some business with her, so she'll be stopping by to see us, and we're excited to welcome her. So there is. And the estate, we still work with all of the folks that are part of the estate on many things during the course of the year, so it's good.
Well, that's great. So you do get some of those other people that come in.
We do.
I was also looking on your website on other events that happen, because you mentioned on your website people could rent the space. I'm not sure, would they rent it for like parties and stuff? They actually rent the space?
Sure,
That's a beautiful space.
Yeah, well, that is certainly a mix of use. Often rentals are, like dance companies come in during the year. We have some partner organizations that we work with, like Vista Life Innovations does their All Ability show at the Kate. And,
they do, okay.
And some other organizations like that. But yes, we have done weddings occasionally. I think the thing I would say about that is we definitely prioritize our programming, so we're bringing in great artists. And then occasionally when it works out and we can do other things, we certainly do, but our programming and bringing people to Old Saybrook and sharing that arts and culture is our real focus.
Good, okay, good. Well, we're gonna take a short break, and when we come back, we'll learn more about the Kate. Be right back.
Spending time outdoors has never felt more valuable. Whether it's exploring nature or relaxing in your yard, let's do it responsibly. Before going out, check for closures and fire restrictions. Practice social distancing, even when outside and on the trail. Back at home, if burning yard debris, keep your pile small. And no matter where you are, be sure to properly extinguish any outdoor fire. Drown, stir, drown, feel. We're all in this together. Help keep our safe places safe.
COVID-19 has changed how we spend weekends with the girls. Now it's time to take the first step that lets us get back to brunching instead of late-night munching. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts. As COVID-19 vaccines become available, you may have questions.
Should I get it?
Is it safe? Should I wait?
It's okay to have questions. Now get the facts at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you.
Hi, welcome back to Sure Things. I'm joined today by the Executive Director of the Kate, Brett Elliott. Welcome back, Brett.
Thank you.
So we were talking a bit about the Kate and some of the performances that you've had in the past, looking ahead. And we were mentioning some of the activities that happened, like the rentals and things like that. But we also wanted to go back to the Spirit of Kate Award.
Yeah.
I noticed on the website, you're right, Cher had gotten that last, but that was all virtual, right?
Cher was virtual.
Everything was virtual.
Well, our team went to Cher's house in Malibu to film that. So Ann Nyberg, who from Channel 8 was the MC and a producer, and one of our staff members went to California in the pandemic safely and secretly to film that.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So tell us more about the award, the Spirit of Kate.
Yeah, so we're 5 years in. This summer we'll bring our sixth year of the Spirit of Katharine Hepburn Award. And it was really launched to emphasize the Kate's connection to Kate and celebrate someone who either had the bold personality traits of Kate or was a trailblazer like Kate. So that could be somebody who knew Kate or had worked with Kate at some point or didn't. So for example, Glenn Close attributes much of her success to Katharine Hepburn. She has a letter from Kate, and it was sort of in college where she was watching the Dick Cavett interview with Kate, and that's when she knew she wanted to be an actress. And she has a letter from Kate that's very meaningful to her.
Wow.
And Cher, Kate is one of her greatest role models. She watched a lot of Katharine Hepburn movies with her mom when she was growing up, and just has a very fond affection for Katharine Hepburn. Christine Baranski was actually an intern at the American Shakespeare Theatre in Stratford when Kate performed there. And Dick Cavett had the most iconic interview with Kate. He was the first recipient in 2016. And then Ann Nyberg was a local, local celebrity.
And
right, and she also wrote a book on Katharine Hepburn. So there's always a unique tie to Katharine Hepburn, not always the same, that where we celebrate someone each year, kind of under those ideals. We're always asked, what does the committee look like? Well, the committee's not super huge, and we navigate that through the Kate, because sometimes there are also folks we're in conversation with who we would love to honor in that way, in scheduling and movies and other things. So there's a few people already in the hopper for future years that we're excited about.
A little teaser there. But so how is that process even happening? Do you reach out to them, or how would you know like that connection to?
Yeah, well, we certainly have kind of each year the person that we would like to honor, and sometimes because of travel or things, we have really great conversations with them, and we navigate that to a future year to accommodate their schedule as well. So there's usually a few of those taking shape.
So you might even look ahead and know maybe perhaps not this year, but is it a summer event?
It's typically in conjunction with our annual summer gala, although the virtual gala this last year was in October because nobody knew it was happening in the summer still.
COVID.
Yes, and so typically it's with our summer gala, which takes place on the green in Old Saybrook. It is our sort of big annual celebration under a giant tent, and we celebrate another year of the Kate success, essentially. Yeah.
And speaking of outside, because you mentioned that's part of the event, are there any outside performances that get planned through the Kate? Do you plan that at all?
Yeah, so the controllable space is our theater, right? So we tend to do things in the theater. There are some things that, like under our patio tent and things, small events and such, and we have been working on, both because of COVID, we were considering some outdoor events, but also we're working on, we have a grant in with the National Endowment for the Arts for an outdoor festival that would actually bring artists. So there's a lot of those things that are always we're working on, and funding has to come through, right? So we're hopeful in a future year that the town of Old Saybrook and the Kate will be partnering with several community organizations to do a great outdoor festival that celebrates arts and culture.
I would just think that would be amazing, especially that space. It's so nice to be right there on Main Street. And you have that, because I thought we did hear music at some point. We were outside, and it was like an evening thing. So I wondered if you did those on a regular basis.
Yeah, well, Parks and Rec has their summer concert series on Wednesday nights as well outside. So it could have been that. Well, the gala also has a band, so that night of the year there's also music outside. But there's also that little logistic of rain outside, and so the theater doesn't have rain inside. So we tend to use the controllable space, but we would like to see more outside. We're even talking about in future summers, could there be a weekend where we do a Friday and Saturday outside every year, and it's something to look forward to. But we have a full-time staff of 4, so we have to sometimes be realistic about our ability. We do a lot for a small staff.
You do. I can see right now that the importance of the priority is to make sure that you're keeping something in the hopper as you move forward on other things. When you're looking at, we're just in April now, so when you're looking at going ahead to May and June and July, the summer months when the tourist season, of course, really ramps up here in this area. Do you have shows that are on the books that you're waiting to see if they can go through already?
Yeah, we've moved forward about 150 shows through COVID continually. So our summer and our fall and into the holiday season does have a lot of things lined up. And right now we'll spend time figuring out, as things hopefully are getting better and vaccinations are increasing, what things can move forward. So some things will still need to move because of artists' schedules and things. But we do have a lot of stuff coming up. And we're hopeful that we'll start to see more things happening during the summer, but we want to do it safely.
Will you still do the movies? Didn't you have movies as well?
Yeah,
on,
we did
Wednesdays?
Monday movies. Actually, last summer we changed it to Saturday cinema because we didn't have Saturday concerts. So we're hopefully bringing that back as well. And there will be other things that are going to take some time to return, like the Saybrook Stage Company typically has a show in the summer and in January, and they may or may not do one this summer because of getting people together to rehearse is still a thing that when you're bringing people from outside together. So it's going to take a little bit of time for some of those things to return, but we're really excited that they will start to return.
What a time you're living in, right? It's everything's in flux.
Yeah,
but
they didn't cover this in grad school.
No, they
that's
didn't
for
cover
sure.
that.
Pandemics, there was not a class on that, so this has been uncharted territory.
What about the kids' events for the summer? Are those do you think those will go ahead?
So Kate's Camp for Kids, which is our signature camp program, is running. Actually, it is about 85% sold for the summer already. Very few spots available. It is. So yeah, Kate's Camp for Kids, limited space available for that. Our kids' shows, I'm not sure what the summer ones are going to look like, but we are planning for next school year's season. So there's usually 5 to 6 children's programs throughout the year. It's Spooktacular with Eastern Connecticut Ballet. We're talking about that. We're hopeful that will move forward. Everything's a little in flux. And Missoula Children's Theater is typically with us, and I do think they're going to be here this summer and then again the following spring, so we'll start the cycle.
And what is that? What is the Missoula?
Yeah, so Missoula Children's Theater comes out of Missoula, Montana, and they're if you ever see a little red truck in front of the Kate, it's Missoula, and it's 2 teaching artists, and they can work with up to 64 kids for a week. They come in and audition on Monday, up to 64 kids get cast. It's brilliantly crafted where it all comes together in pieces, and then they do 2 shows on Saturday, and it's free. There are tickets for the show, but for the kids all week, we get sponsorships to underwrite that.
And that's like their own little theater camp as well. They come and they work
Correct.
with
Yep.
these.
And it's a predetermined script in that version, but and I think they're doing Hansel and Gretel this summer. But it all comes together, and then they do the show. So yeah.
And so far they're on target to come.
So far they're on target to come. It's late June, early July, and so far it looks good. But every day feels like a week, and every week feels like a month right now. Trying to figure it out. So
you have. I'm still surprised by the children's theater with the 85% already filled.
Yeah.
Is that mainly due to people that are familiar with the Kate, or does that go out and you get a lot of community kids, or?
Yeah, I think at this point, I think it's a lot of returning folks, and some that didn't maybe attend. We went through Camps Move Forward last summer during COVID. We did it with very reduced capacity because we knew having that outlet for kids after what we thought was just the end of one terrible school year. Now here we are at the end of another. So we did move forward with it, and so we were excited to have greater capacity this summer, and it looks very different than it did a year ago.
Oh, that's excellent. What a great community spirit, too, to have that available for the kids, because that, as you said, that's a real need, too.
Yeah,
their whole creative energy. And so it's such a gem of the shoreline. I'm so excited talking about everything. And I know, looking at your website, you have a lot of information on there, which is important because people with tickets and what to do if it's this or that, and they just have to keep checking in if what's available.
Yeah, if someone has tickets to a show, we've been contacting them along the way. If the show is moving, they have an option to go to the new date or to accept a refund at that time. So we've done our best to stay in touch with everybody, and that's why we always encourage people to, sometimes we ask for your phone and your email address, and we do so specifically because right now we needed to be able to contact you. So,
And how is it going with your volunteers? Because you really run with the volunteers here. Are you staffed well with the volunteers?
Yeah, we have pre-COVID we had about 200 people in our volunteer guild. Many of them we haven't seen because of COVID, and we're just starting a slow return. So where we typically have up to 12 ushers, volunteers for each show, we've had 2 to 3 for each as we've started this slow return. So there's definitely some room for that to continue coming back, but we want everybody to be safe, so we've taken it slow.
Sure. So you had, 200, that's great. You had a great pool to choose from because everyone, when we go, everyone's so friendly, and it is taken care of by those volunteers, and that's great.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
So once you get going with that, you should have plenty of things going on with both inside with your volunteers, and it sounds like some other things coming down the pike that we'll learn more about.
Yeah,
I
museum,
guess.
lots of things coming up. We're excited. You know, we're so happy that we've been able to maximize even though we were close, we were able to maximize some time inside with some small renovations and things that will make the experience even better on the other side.
That's great. That's great. Well, anything else that you see for the future goal that you have that you think? I know that there's a lot in the hopper there, but is there anything that you look at 5 years out that you think might be down the road for the Kate, or that you would like to see for the Kate?
Yeah, well, I think we're always after, you know, the next artist, something slightly more unique or something slightly bigger, you know, something there. We'd like to continue to grow our education programming. We're a little limited by space on that occasionally because there's only so much space at the Cape, but we're always looking at new and creative ways. And, you know, our tribute to Katharine Hepburn and the way in which that affects our programming, we're always increasing, and with this museum, it's very exciting.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. Well, I want to thank you again, Brett, for coming in to talk to us. And certainly your website has a lot of information as well. So we all look forward to getting there when it's all up and running.
We look forward to seeing everyone back, that's for sure. It's been a quiet year.
A quiet year. Well, thanks again. Thank you for joining us. And if you want to send me any feedback or questions, please go to surethingct@gmail.com. Until next time, take care.